We are now in 2025, which means it is the year of Nintendo Switch 2. And yes, we can confidently call it Switch 2 because we have gotten a deluge of leaks recently showing us the hardware, and not just the hardware, but what seems to be finished hardware sitting in a factory somewhere, which sure implies Nintendo will likely be officially, finally, showing us the Switch 2 very soon. So what is there to know before we get that official reveal? In this video, I'll answer that question and try to give a simple explanation for everything we've learned lately regarding the Switch 2. First off, since I've already mentioned it, is the name itself. Yes, we know it's called Switch 2 because we have shots of the actual Switch 2 dock, and wouldn't you know it, there's a big old logo on the back showing the Switch Joy-Cons with a giant 2 and the words Nintendo Switch. The dock is also more rounded, and supposedly a lot more of the Switch 2 screen will be visible while docked, as opposed to the Switch 1. Some talented people have made renders showing what this looks like, and I'll link them down below so you can check them out more closely if you want. In addition to the dock leaks, we have learned that the Switch 2 has a 60-watt charger, and the Switch 2 can play a maximum of 42 watts. The Switch 1 pulls a maximum of 18 watts, which points to the fact that the Switch 2 is more demanding because of its increased horsepower, of course, but could also mean faster charging. Another key leak that happened regarding the Switch 2 was the Joy-Cons. The account Next Handheld on Reddit was responsible for a ton of the recent leaks, as they clearly got their hands on actual hardware, and in addition to the dock, we got some shots of the Joy-Cons. First, we'll start with the simple news. The Joy-Cons have color around the inside of the analog sticks and on the rails. We have seen blue and orange Joy-Cons, and it appears that these will be the neon red and blue equivalent SKU that the Switch 1 had at launch. In addition to that, something we don't have photo evidence of is Next Handheld's claims there's also a white Switch 2 Joy-Con option that has gray colors on both Joy-Cons instead of orange and blue. This means we may be looking at a black Switch 2 with a splash of orange and blue on the Joy-Cons as one option, and a white Switch 2 with a touch of gray. Again, we don't have actual photo evidence of the white ones at this time, but it would make sense for Nintendo to offer two colors like they did for the original Switch. Of course, that's not the juiciest piece of info we got with the Joy-Con leak. Big talk going around is how the Joy-Cons have what looks to be an optical laser like you find on PC mice. People have already coined the term MouseCon, and what this means is that the optical mouse pointer controls could be available on Switch 2 if you lay your Joy-Con down. The Lenovo Legion handheld PC does this in a slightly different way, but you can see the optical sensor looks super similar. There's extra evidence that supports this as shipping data that people have been following from factories that are manufacturing Switch 2 literally mentions mouse soles on them. This heavily implies that the Joy-Cons could have a little more grip to them underneath to help them slide when used in MouseCon mode. Does this mean the MouseCon idea is 100% confirmed? Well, I wouldn't go that far yet, as it's always possible Nintendo has other plans for an accessory or something. But I do feel that the MouseCon theory looks pretty good right now, and the shipping info really gives it weight. Nintendo has a history of finding ways of adding little bonus features to stuff, and with the Switch 2 seemingly being a very, let's say, straightforward successor and not a revolutionary hardware design, them finding a way of adding something extra that could be useful in certain games and for people in certain setups makes sense. Remember, Nintendo designed the Switch around offering a bunch of different ways to play, so adding a popular input method in addition to everything the Joy-Cons already do feels like a very Nintendo thing to me. We also got some very interesting third-party accessory leaks from CES 2025. Genki and other third-party accessory makers were showing off what they got cooking for Switch 2. Apparently, some reporters did ask if they had real Switch 2 hardware, and they claimed yes. We can see Pro controllers, Joy-Cons, grips, and a charging station among the accessories to be worked on for Switch 2. And the designs do match the colors. Supposedly, they expect the console to launch in April, which is a very juicy tidbit, but it's hard to know if that's actually true or not. Now finally, I'll mention the full motherboard leak. To be clear, I want this to be a simple breakdown of the recent rumors. I'm not going to go in depth on this, but essentially what we had confirmed was Samsung is supplying the main node for Switch 2 and not TSMC, who are the top chip maker out there and generally have better performing chips, which could lead to better performance and battery life. Now, we've had reports for a long time that the Switch 2 screen has a Samsung as well, potentially pointing to a multi-part deal with Samsung to help keep the Switch 2 as cheap as possible. What does it mean in terms of the Switch 2 capabilities, though? Well, going with TSMC by all accounts would be better in terms of the Switch 2's capabilities, but my expectations are about where they've always been. According to Digital Foundry, they believe that in terms of raw rasterization power, the Switch 2 will be behind the PS4 Pro, but they also state in this article I'm linking down below that the modern architecture and features like DLSS, which allows a much lower internal resolution but allows you to still put out a clean image, will allow the Switch 2 to get current-gen PS5, Xbox Series X games, but they will most likely target 30 FPS, and then less demanding games, or games that also have a PS4 version, will be 60. Honestly, that's always been my best-case expectation for a handheld. Hearing anything negative like the Switch 2 is using a chip from a company who is worse at manufacturing them will obviously cause some people to panic, but when you consider what you can realistically expect from a handheld console, everything I hear about the Switch 2 is in the range I was totally expecting, and I believe people will be happy with what they get when they see the results. So that's the gist of what we got so far. What are my thoughts? Well, my main takeaway is this thing is getting revealed pretty soon. I'm guessing sometime in the next 30 days or so. Nintendo has their next investor meeting on February 4th, and their president has already confirmed it would be revealed this fiscal year, which ends on the 31st of March. So you would expect them to have news on the thing that will drive revenue for their next fiscal year by that point. In addition to that, it seems like people are already seeing and getting their hands on real finished units, which points this thing maybe not even being that far away from release. I've been on team first half of 2025 for a while, which means no later than June. I should also add that the guy Next Handheld, who leaked a ton of these images, said he heard March or April for release, but seeing hardware and knowing dates is very different, so I wouldn't assume what he's saying is true there. But I do expect a pretty fast reveal to release timeline, Apple style, so to speak, so anything's possible. And that's all we have for now. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel, as it really helps a small channel like mine get a few more eyeballs on it. Also, I intend to fully cover the Switch 2 into the future, so if that interests you, then I hope to see you next time.